is Andrew O'Neill. I work with Tipperary Co-op as a farm development advisor. We're on the farm here of the Farrells here in Borrisoleigh, James, Seamus and Janice Farrell. I'd just like to thank them for their commitment with the farm development programme in conjunction with Tagish and ourselves for the last 4 years. So this video, just giving an outline of what's going to be happening on this video. So John Graney, who is the local Tagish advisor, will be speaking to Seamus on the update on the farm and the lessons learned for the last 4 years. We'll also have the grass 10, Michael O'Leary will be discussing the grass situation on the farm, implementing an autumn rotation planner and closing up in time at the right cover. And finally we'll finish with Martin Kavanagh, who's our herd health consultant with the Co-op. He'll be looking at the herd health status on Seamus's farm, any issues that they've had this year, and also looking at the silage results, dry cow diets and etc. with regard to coming into the upcoming winter. Thank you.
John Graney, local B&T dairy advisor at Teagasc Thurles, and we're here today on the farm of Seamus Farrell outside Borrisoleigh. Seamus, you joined the Teagasc Tip Co-op joint programme in 2018 and you're in the final year of the programme to date. So today we're just going to talk a small bit about the improvements and the changes you implemented on the farm.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I'd just like to welcome everyone to the virtual walk here in the Farrells Borrisoleigh. Yeah, sure, Andrew came to me in 2018 and asked me if I'd be interested in joining the Focus Farm. I said I would, sure, we'd learn something from it anyway. So yeah, should we focus on a good few bits and pieces, say from day one that we needed to improve on. Probably site fertility is one, silage quality was another, and just in milk solids going forward as well, fat and proteins. So we focused on a few bits and pieces that we have made inroads, like in all fairness we have improved, which is good. And yeah, the 4 years are flying by really.
Bit of background to the herd, maybe cow type, cow numbers when you joined in 2018?
We're always hovering around 90-95 cows here, and we're up to around 100 there now, and probably stay around there, won't go too mad now expansion wise. Cow type kind of 60-40 Holstein Friesian. High yielding herd enough, probably average around 7,500 litres like that on around 1.25 tonnes. Probably milk solids probably has improved a good bit. I would probably around 490 kilos milk solids there in 2018, probably up to around 550 give or take. Now again we rear all our own calves as well, so it's milk fed calves as well. On a 1.25 meal I suppose. So look, sure, it's improving like that. Sure, look, just to maintain it now and keep it there going forward. I think.
Yeah, your fats and proteins have improved. Particularly looking at your EBI in the herd when you joined in 2018, I think you were hovering around the 98. 95.
Yeah, our EBI is improved. Like, I would probably focus on higher EBI genomic bulls there for the last couple of years, and around 98, I think back in 2018, up around 140, over 140 there now at the moment. So yeah, it is improving up, going the right direction like that.
What are you looking for when you're picking or selecting a team of bulls? Are you focusing on sub-index? Is there anything in particular?
Yeah, should look the fat and the proteins and your percentages like that, and the fertility to some extent in the last couple of years as well is the big one. Wouldn't be focusing too much now on litres of milk. We have lots of litres here, so the fertility going forward, fertility sub-index is something that, and maintenance, well, actually, it's a very low maintenance figure. So we're trying to get that up a bit as well, because just lower maintenance cows, I suppose, our cows do take mine and take a bit of feeding.
Just while we're talking on maybe the reproduction of the herd, so you're scanning, you've scanned for this year.
Yeah, we're happy enough. It's 10% empty rate now for a finish, so we're kind of happy enough with it. Like to be kind of spread out now. Okay, our 6 week calf rate now is kind of on a bit of a downer, so a bit of a focus needed there now for the next 4 or 5 years. Look, it's easy enough to upset these things and they can go wrong quick enough, but it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get back on track and just to get where I want it to be. But look, sure, it's work, just to work ahead and stay ahead.
You have an awful lot of young stock coming through as well, so the genetic potential of these stock is obviously higher than the more mature cows.
Yeah, actually, look, just we kind of were looking for a few years. We hadn't a huge amount of Friesian heifers coming through with Friesian bulls, and just weren't using a huge amount of Friesian EI. So for the last couple of years now, we have used more Friesian EI, and definitely the EI, the younger stock coming through, is better. Like, you know, so I think we're around 24% of
basement rate
coming there next year.
First,
so
maybe 11 when you.
A couple of years ago, yeah, that's it. Yes, it's all going to help like going forward. I suppose we put on the All Flex collar this year as well, which did help too actually with fertility end of it, and with the submission rate as well. So that helped as well.
Silage quality, okay, so you have a high yielding cow, you do a lot of buffer feeding here.
Yeah.
I think looking at your reports before it came out, you're probably hovering around the 60% DMD when you joined the programme. You're well into the 70s now. What's the secret?
The secret, like that, just kind of just change our strategy completely. I suppose historically we used to always kind of graze our silage ground first in the spring and close it up there then, and maybe not cut there till maybe the first week of June, thereabouts, 10th of June. For the last few years now, starting this, we kind of change around. We kind of graze it later in the back end, and we don't graze now in all the spring. Just slurry in the spring, fertiliser, and close it up early then. And to cut there really around the 20th of May, we're kind of aiming for now. We have a fragmented farm, we have outside blocks as well where we cut silage, so kind of suits the contractor to cut early and get out of the way as well. So look, we've been kind of gone from the mid 60s up to the early 70s now on the silage. So look, it's a help because we do a lot of buffer feeding. We're milking cows through the winter there as well for the last couple of years as well, and we keep all our own calves as well, so there's calves and weans to be fed there for the winter as well. So look, if the silage quality is better, it's just less meal going in, there's no whole lot, like, you know, so that's the end again.
Soil fertility, you focus on your P's and K's, you think you're nearly index 3 and 4 for...
Yeah, index 3 and 4 is now the last soil tests, like that's what we're doing soil tests again, so we'll do it every 2 years, and pH is okay as well. There's been a lot of lime there last year as well, so yeah, we're 3 and 4 now everywhere like that. We wouldn't have a huge allowance of P now on the farm here, so big focus on the slurry really. We put on the dribble bar there in the tank there last year, and it's a godsend, like, you know, very slurry and paddocks and stuff, so it does help.
Very good. Okay, Seamus, we're touching into the end of October now. Maybe touch on current performance.
Yeah, sure. Look, as everyone can see going around like that, it's been a godsend of a back end really. Like September really made it like that. All you want is dry weather. Cows have held well now for the last 2 months. They're doing around 19 litres thereabouts. They're away on 3.5 kilos a meal. They're getting a bit of buffer feed aside right there for milkings and evenings from being an hour. So it's kind of just holding together and gets their fill. Dry matter grass has probably gone a bit. Proteins is hovering around the low 90s, 93, 94 at the moment. This slipped there in the last 10 days because of the silage, I suppose. The fat's around 477, so look, they'll probably slip back there now. The weather gets wet now, the breaking weather, they will slip back another small bit like that, but sure, hopefully hold as long as we can.
Closing plan, you're beginning to close paddocks?
Yeah, well, we started there last week actually. Now, we started a bit earlier, but the weather was so good and reposts were so good, we kind of held off a few more days. Wouldn't have a huge amount of cows calving early next spring anyway, so there'll be no big push in demand for grass next spring, so kind of closing there last week, probably stay out by night and day there now, around to maybe the first days of November, probably go by night then, and look, we'll see how the weather goes then, probably hope to get to the 15th of November there by day, so the weather permits dependent on that.
Your grassland management has definitely improved over the last number of years. Any one thing that you want to
Yes, I don't know. Pot look, maybe, I don't know.
Pasture base.
Pasture base, yeah. We joined up pasture base as well there, and look, we're doing more grass measurement than I did 4 or 5 years ago, definitely like that. Look, it's a confidence thing like that. It just needs practice, like, you know, and yeah, you try to keep it top of it. Probably going into too heavy a cover during the summer at times like that, you know, just for cows to get to feel. I find our cows eat a lot, like, you know what I mean? They're big appetites, so yeah, look, it's work in progress like that. You just get confident at it and just stay at it is the big thing, like, you know. Yeah, the pasture base is very happy, like, very happy with that, and it's very easy to use.
Very good. Seamus, you might just touch on the replacement rate of the herd. So when you joined the programme in early 2018, late 2017, you had a very mature herd. So the average lactation was 5.8. I think you had a replacement rate of 11%. But you've an awful lot of young stock coming into the herd that came in over the last season.
Yeah, I suppose historically cows always managed to stay around here. That we looked after them well, and if cows are healthy and good in the feet and milking well, we didn't just cull them because of age. And probably didn't really focus much on putting cows in calf breeding back through the years either. And also we were unlucky there a few years too with bull calves with an awful load of them for a few years. So for the last couple of years we have used more freeze in the eye and more efforts coming through, thankfully. So I think our lactation numbers come back from around 6 on average back to around 3.8 thereabouts. And our replacement rate has gone from around 11 up to 24%, it's nearly doubled. So yeah, look, hopefully going forward we'll try to keep a lot of young heifers coming through, and it'll probably help the 6-week calf rate over time. It'll take 4 or 5 years to straighten it out, but it's going to take more heifers coming through to kind of straighten it out like that. But going forward, even with older cows, if they're good in the feet and healthy and milking well, I'm not going to call them just an age like that.
Very good.
So we're here on the farm of Seamus Farrell, Borrisoleigh, last week of October. Seamus, how has the year been going so far from a grass point of view?
Sure, has been up and down really like that. Yeah, I suppose it's a strange kind of year grass wise. Spring was kind of slow enough growth wise, and then we got a wet May, which really kind of picked up the whole thing, and kind of feasting the famine the whole year. Either it was tight or we just got a bit of growth, and they were kind of grass was stressed out a lot now the whole summer like that. It went to stem a good few times like that, so it was topping everything required.
It was a difficult year to manage.
It was, yeah.
And if we talk about maybe the last rotation, look, you're into week 3 or week 4 into the last rotation at this stage. How has it been going with your?
Fine, look, it's been a dream so far. Like the ground conditions have been really good. Grade outs has been good as well. Like that. So there was some heavy covers there right for a while. There maybe a week, 10 days ago, and it was dry weather. It's been a struggle to graze it out, but it's been a help right.
What's your target? How much do you want to have closed up for the 1st of November?
Sure, look, we'll be aiming there for in around 60%, I suppose, there in the 1st of November like that, to have graze off, and the remainder then to push it on there into November.
And if we take the first half of October first, are you far away from that target? 60%?
I'd say around 40% of it there now graze at the moment like that, yeah. So in the next 10 days now, probably the covers are a bit lighter, we'll get through it a bit quicker, right?
Yeah, perfect. And if we go into November, you'll be grazing 40%.
Yeah.
When do you hope to house the cows, or what farm cover do you want to close up with?
Well, usually around 600 up against 600 of a farm cover like that. We usually aim for maybe the 10th to 12th of November like that, weather permitting then again like that, yes. So we'll probably go in by night there now, the 1st of November, and stay out by day only then for November. Like, you know.
So you want to have 600 kilos of dry matter per hectare on the 1st of December?
Yeah, definitely.
On this farm?
If the weather comes too wet and there is a bit of grass left in paddock, we would leave it out there instead or go out and graze it.
Okay. And spring 2022, you have a fairly high 6-week calving rate. And
We don't think we can right now be low enough, to be honest about it, like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have used the man now early in February like that. So look, up this part of the country, we'd have a bit later anyway, and go to be that bit slower in the spring. So get out in February, kind of hit and miss, depending on weather, really,
Yeah.
ground conditions. Like,
so
you know.
600 really is the key,
Yeah.
the key perimeter for this
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
Okay. Growth has been quite good, Seamus, over the last couple of weeks.
Actually, it has temperatures have been good like that, and the heat was in the ground there all along as well like that. So growth is definitely up. I'd say this back end compared to
Yeah, I suppose just looking at data from Pasture Based Ireland, I suppose we grew more grass in September than we did in May. So look,
Right.
2021 has been that kind of a year.
Yeah.
Growth rates at the moment are in the mid-30s, probably 25% ahead of normal. So look, we're probably living in a small bit of a bubble at the moment, and I suppose look, temperatures and weather are going to change, and as a result, I suppose we're trying to utilise this grass as best as we can. But from, I suppose, the final rotation, I suppose what we do in the final rotation, we can really set up our farm for the springtime. So if we tweak our management now, if we think about what paddocks we're going to be grazing in February, early February, if we graze them off now, when we come out in February or maybe the end of February, I suppose those paddocks then will have a cover of 1,000, 1,100 on them. So I suppose if we make a few tweaks to our grazing now, we'll find the benefit in spring 2022.
Okay, I'm here today with Seamus Farrell. We're going to talk a little bit about your disease results, Seamus, your vaccination program and so on. I have in my hand here all your bull tank milk results from Munster Bovine for the last couple of years. We've been using these to help us as a little bit of a guide to see what we're vaccinating for. What's your current vaccination plan? What are you doing?
Yeah, we're sure in the springtime we're doing the lepto and BVD, and
Okay.
then say we do the dead vaccine then in October with the IBR, and we started salmonella last year actually. We came back behind salmonella there and the bull tank last September, October. So we did have a vaccination for salmonella then again. So they're the four we're doing at the moment.
Okay, so we're doing the big four, and when we're talking about coming back high in the tank, what happened was the bull tank was measuring low on the salmonella antibodies for a period of time and came up high once. Now sometimes say, okay, well we leave it, but we'd be very risk averse. Just putting in the salmonella vaccine, make sure we don't run into an
Yeah,
abortion.
we had an outbreak of IBR say 12 years ago, and like an outbreak is a disaster in any disease like that. So I know a few friends of mine had an outbreak of salmonella and said, God, just vaccinate like that. Don't get caught in an outbreak. It's a disaster. So.
Makes absolute sense, and we'd certainly say herds like 100 cows plus in that situation would probably use Salmonella vaccinomus as a standard. The cost of an outbreak is just too high. Always remember too, your bull tank is looking backwards. We can't look into the future.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of put in a crystal ball every now and again to see what's going
Right,
on.
yeah.
You know. So you said also then about a dead vaccine for IBR. So you're on a once a year pattern with that?
Yeah, say the in-calf heifers get live vaccine in the spring, and then say 6 months later, then they come in and rest the herd on the dead vaccine. Then that's a yearly dead vaccine. Then after that.
Okay, and when I'm looking at your results again, we can look at the bull tank. The bull tank will tell us the difference between what's happening with the vaccinated herd against an unvaccinated herd. At the moment, we're starting to run negative. So what it means is the level of antibody to wild virus or wild IBR virus is lower. We've good vaccine control. If we saw that was going positive, we'd probably bring your vaccine down into your calves, your live vaccine, and that would be a possible change. And then the BVD lepto spring. Why is that important to you there?
Actually, BVD, lepto, like actually lepto is kind of one of those diseases that humans can pick up as well, especially when you have relief milkers then as well. It's important that it's covered. So actually, BVD then would say PIs and stuff like that down the road. Like, we never had a PI, thankfully, but just to reduce the risk as well.
Okay, and look, that's a really great point about the lepto. When we have staff coming in, we've got to be careful. What we call these are zoonotic diseases. So a disease an animal can have that a human being can actually pick up, and it can create problems. Some people have dropped BVD vaccine. We would probably advise people to maintain BVD vaccine if you cannot guarantee that you won't come into contact with strange stock within about a 3 metre gap. So particularly for people out farms and so on, please be aware that BVD is still knocking around, and I think you're wise to continue your vaccination.
Yeah, we would have blocks anyway outside farms. So
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. The other things that we look at within the disease piece, we have a reading for liver fluke in the tank. It takes about 30-40% of the cows to be positive for the tank to go positive. But looking back at your tank for the last 3 years, we've no readings for liver fluke. What's your liver fluke strategy, or do you do anything for that?
No, it's just to get an annual dose there of Velbex in the winter. That's about it. Now we do for worms there during the summer as well with the Epizero or Episus.
Okay. Do you do that as a routine that you do, or do you wait for the
Wait, we
cough?
start coughing really. Like, now, I would say it was a bit later this year, another year's doing it. Now we just starting coughing, and once we started coughing, then we did the Episus, the injections. So.
And did that work out for you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
fine.
fine.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So again, look, again with new regulations coming down the road, we're looking at all parasite control coming under prescription-only medicine in the future, we will have to have justification for use. And I think getting used to using it strategically by using some kind of results is important. So cows coughing, first cough, we can go in and dose, absolutely justifiable. The tank is telling us very low fluke. Dosing with Alvex is fine, it will cover adult liver fluke, but it also is it's an effective worm dose for the winter. So nice and cheap, even though you got to grab them all, which is a bit of a problem.
It's handy enough for that, yeah.
It's handy enough to do it. You're treating them for lice as well in the winter
lice
period
as well.
So lice is being done, and we're treating them with Alvex as well. Any recent disease issues that are bothering you? Anything that's on your mind?
Calves there in the last month, I suppose, calves cough. I suppose the mild weather and the change from then as well, it's nice, got kind of cold. We had a shot of cows, our calves coughing there, so we actually lost a calf and we done a post-mortem on there, so I had pneumonia. So we actually did the youngest 30 calves, we probably done them with Bovipast there a week and 10 days ago.
So you put in a vaccine.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're looking at that and calf pneumonia, and I think it's great that your vet got on, get in there, get that PM. I really advise you, don't waste a dead animal. Okay, that sounds a terrible thing to say, but if we do get a young animal that dies quickly, that hasn't had a lot of treatment, it's well worthwhile opening. Yes. And I think your vet saw quite a specific lung. You were describing the lungs to me, they look like
a liver when she opened it up.
Yeah, so the bottom part of the lung gets completely collapsed, and we relate this a lot to these acute viral infections like RSV. So I can see the logic of your vet advising you to go in with an RSV vaccine. So that's something that probably in the future we'll look at a younger age. So we start
probably will have to be vaccinated for that,
absolutely. And you'll get these outbreaks. So in fairness, very good use of the vet, very good use of a vaccine principle. That's the disease piece. Anything, you're self-confident, you're happy, you're running around 140 at the moment?
140, I was saying to that earlier, we kind of took a bit of a wobble right during the summer there with the self-count. I said during the dry weather, cows lying in the shade a lot and kind of got a bit mucky, and say we did pick up with infection then like that. But I know it's settling down there again now and it's fine.
Okay, so are you doing a blanket dry cow therapy across all the cows this year?
No, I probably will do some selective dry cow.
Okay, well, I've
been holding up for the last few years, and that kind of cows were kind of trying to hold cows and all the rest, and we just didn't want to take a chance. So we will do a bit of it there now, I should say.
Yeah, look, and there is everyone's a bit cautious. Yeah. We have a bit of fear about it. I think we have 3 guys on the TIP program out of the 6 who are on selective dry cow. We have a number of herds that are on it, and there's particular conditions. You've got to have this chat with your vet. Yeah. You're a clean operator anyway, and again, it's clean use of sealer. So starting off with a few, building a bit of confidence with it, and making sure you get that early milk recording in March, so that we know what's happened. Doing a milk recording later than that, when the cows are well calved, we're not going to know how effective all that sealer system was to actually keep an eye on it. So it's something we can approach with a bit of confidence. Yeah. Seamus, we have silage results back from this year, from your 2021 cuts. The quality has been improving steadily here. You've gone from sort of the mid-60s DMDs, is that fair to say, up to over 70?
Yeah, as I said last year, we've kind of gone from mid-60s to early 70s. So it's a complete change of strategy really in our cutting dates and our strategy for cutting silage and closing up.
And we see a lift in protein as well. I see in your silages you're in that 13-14%.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's given us a bit of room to play with. Have you any concerns about feeding that silage to dry cows? How do you feel about this? Is a better quality material?
That's it, yeah. Like there's pros and cons for everything like that, yeah.
Sure.
When we're making silage to feed the wheelings cattle and the milking cow, really, that. The dry cow, so straw is going to play a part. We have a dye feeder like we do, use a bit of straw there every winter anyway like that. It's trying to dilute the whole thing a bit, like,
Yeah, look, and we have to be careful. Dye feeder's not for everybody, straw isn't for everybody, but I suppose the lesson here is if our cows are milking well, you feed your cows well, you yield well, your cows come in good condition. We got to be careful we don't put on too much condition on these cows. Have you seen that happen to you before? Is that something you're concerned about?
Yeah, I suppose even yourself were here last
I know.
They were too heavy, like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
It's a fine line, look, to having cows fit and having fat, and then if they're too thin, then the park calves, they're on their knees, so it's a balance to get the whole thing right really like that, so it's working properly really.
Yeah, and look, and we'd say with body condition on dry cows, we have a tendency when we're finished milking or we're wound down a lot, we're like to put things in the shed, feed them and leave it. Really, you need to be looking at these cows about every 3 weeks. Make sure you're going in the right direction, that you can adjust the diet. And when you have a diet feeder, the advantage of putting in a little bit of straw to dilute it down or restrict their diet a bit, we can control that. The last thing we want is fat dry cows calving in, because it's going to influence them. So good silage is great, and where it really is benefit to us is feeding the fresh cow, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, yes. Then the cows calve down, then you eat good grub and it complements inside the grass outside. So, but we do buffer for a good while anyway, that into April anyway, so good silage is important.
Okay, so we need really good, highly digestible silage. It's not creating so much gut fill, a lot of fibre in it that stops them eating the grass outside. Okay, so we've got better silage to do that job for us. And I suppose when we're looking at these the higher yielding end of your cows, so some of your cows are getting into that 35, 37 litres of milk within 2 or 3 weeks of calving. What are you thinking strategy-wise to manage that group within the herd?
Sure, I suppose they'll have to be topped up in the paddock like that, but kind of with the buffer they are getting a little bit, I suppose the bigger cow eats more anyway generally, but they're going to be topped up more in the paddock going forward like that. We're kind of blanket feeding across the board like that, and looking back it probably wasn't ideal because there is a bit of a spread between our medium cows and our higher yielding cows, so the higher yielding cows will have to be looked after a bit more in the paddock.
Okay, so there's a couple of ways of doing it. We can either feed everybody an awful lot more within the buffer and drive it on there, or we can get it a little bit selective. And we're not really talking about feed to yield, you're just really talking about a top up to a certain.
Yeah, that's it, yeah, certain cows, yeah.
Okay, so that's where again our early milk recording will come in.
Yeah.
We get a very good idea who is doing the work, and we have an opportunity then just identifying. You probably look at identifying with a tape or something in the park.
Yeah, the tape and the tail or something simple like that, and just you give an extra push down the paddock, it's no real work.
So it could be 2 kilos in a day extra
Yeah,
that's going into
that's
these
it,
cows. Okay, so I think the key thing here is we've got very good silage to work with, a very good base. We're going to get out to grass as soon as we can, and we want to keep it simple. It has to be manageable, yeah?
Yeah, you don't want to overcomplicate the whole thing either, because people are busy enough in the spring without overcomplicating things. Like, as springtime year, there's a lot going on, and if the weather is bad then too, so you try to keep it simple and make it workable. Like.
Okay, super. So we're going to try and control our dry cows, and we'll do a little bit of work with our fresh cows. Excellent.
Yeah.
The other thing we have is we always do a mineral test on silage samples now, really to have a look here. And we have a couple of things going on. I think you said before, Seamus, you had some trouble with milk fever in the past. Is that
In
right?
the past, we would have had, yeah, with older, say, higher yielding cow, we had a couple of milk fever. Last year now was actually quite good. I think we only had one case there the whole spring. But,
Okay. So when we're looking at your silage, on the 2 tests that were done, it's the same pit, but you've got 2 tests kind of front and back done. And we're looking at a potassium or a potash level of over 2%, 2.2%. So what that means to us when we get a high potash, when we're over that 2%, the problem is we're going to start tying up some magnesium inside in that cow. Magnesium is our driver to stop milk fever in dry cows. So we need to get a strategy for that, as well as our magnesium levels are around 0.15% in there, which is low. So we need a significant magnesium. I think you put it in the water, is that right?
yeah, we put magnesium through the water last year like that, and even we had to put in extra there for a finish of that just.
Okay.
Up as well, yeah.
Okay, so we may put it in water, we may also use some different magnesium strategies in the cows close up to calving, so those last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's very important, the level of information that we can get to try and head off some of those problems by watching body condition, watching what mineral status is inside our silage and topping up appropriately. Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Some of the other trace elements, you're a little low, you're struggling a tiny bit, copper, selenium, iodine in your forages. Have you had that experience in the farm?
Yeah, we've done a good bit of research this year now and say a bit of homework there this year on trace elements, and copper was an issue there in the spring, and we actually put a Croupex, say it's a protected copper through the ration for a finish, and did solve our problems like that. So look, our fertility, to say back along the way, is only average enough, to say the least, and a lot of it is on the trace elements. Just need to focus more on, say, getting certain ones in. Iodine was kind of low as well a bit there. So
Okay. So you have some trace element issues, and some of the issues around feeding those higher yielding cows to try and improve their first service conception rate. Your vets, again, I'll bring them in. They brought in UCD Herd Health. You did a kind of a full herd health fertility profile, and you got a lot of this information.
yeah, the lads in Borrisoleigh there during the summer were just having a chat about it, and they recommended we should just go and throw in UCD, and he came down, fierce, nice guy, and got back a load of information from there now, and really good information to work on. So just look going forward, and that can help it. It's all about improving the whole thing, just making it a bit easier. But
Okay, so I mean, it's a good sign. I mean, I know you're involved with the Tip Co-op program, but using advisory, using services like that, using veterinary services strategically, using your Chaga services, so on.
It's like yourselves, really, the girls inside Borrisoleigh, you're all there to help and to make it easier for everyone like that. Just mean just improve, so for benefit of everyone really.
Okay, and it's also important, lads, when we're getting all this data back, when we've got all this sort of information, analysis, and so on, that someone is helping you to use it. I think is that reasonable, Seamus? We need a bit of a guide here.
We do, actually, like farmers are kind of, everyone out there is knowledgeable enough and have good experience, but at times just need an extra bit of help, I suppose, a bit of expertise really to put you on the right track, because it's easy enough to go off track, it's get back on it right, then get things straightened out, is the whole thing, but definitely look, good advice never goes astray, and look, every day's a school day, we're learning every day, so.
Okay, so we're going to say you're going to have a busy winter managing all this.
Yeah, we are.
Right, and we have a bit of management to do here, but I think, look, if we can get the outcome right in the spring, and we get our job right in terms of fertility and so on, it'll pay off.
A few tweaks here and there.
Absolutely. Best of luck, Seamus, with the winter going ahead. and stay safe in the spring.
Yeah, and
all right.
thanks to yourself, Andrew, and all the lads from Tip Co-op and Tagish and to the Forest Group as well, the whole lot. Thanks to the
Good on you.